Whew. Okay, so we did a lot with models. It's time to like shake it out a little bit because that was a lot. I mean, you're going to be using models so much that I wanted to make sure that you had a solid foundation before you moved into what's coming next. What we're about to do is actually really easy, and it will talk about and touch on CRUD all over again. So what we're going to do is open up admin.py, and in here we're going to just do a relative import from .models import product. Of course, that's going into the models that's on the same or in the same directory as admin. So that's how you can do from .models. If it wasn't, you would just say from products.models. So if you're in another app, that's how it would work. Okay. And then we would just do admin.site.register, make sure it's a lowercase register, and then we're going to add in product. Go ahead and save admin.py. Let's go ahead and run the server again. And we'll go ahead and jump into our admin, and I'll click on home. And what do you know? We've got a new section here. It's called products. So if I click on it, I can actually start to add products now. And these actually save in the database. We'll actually take a look at that in just a moment, but I'm going to just do something like t-shirt. Okay, this is my t-shirt. Actually, before I even do that, I'm going to go ahead and hit save and continue. What do you know? We've got correct the error below. This field is required. We did that by default. All of our fields in the models are required. That's it. We'll talk about how to change that later, but for now, we've got our field being required, and I can say this is an awesome shirt. Buy it. Great marketing copy right there, if you ask me. Okay, we'll hit save and continue. The product object was added successfully. You can edit again below. Or I could go back into products, and what do you know? We've got a product object. We actually have something saved in the database. Don't believe me? Let's log out and log in again. Products. Woo! It's there. Awesome. So let's go ahead and add another product, and I'll just call this hat. This is an awesome hat. Okay. Save. What's going on here? I got two things saying product object. Well, there's a couple things that's really cool. First of all, I have two things now in my database that are stored that I can access at any time, right? So this is a list. We see these lists. What did we just do? We just did CRUD. We created a product, that is create the C of CRUD, and then we retrieve those products by looking at them right here. So this is the retrieving. And if I wanted to update it, buy it, I can update it. There we go. And if I wanted to delete one, be like, I don't like the hat. Boom, deleted. I just did every action of CRUD right there. The thing I didn't do is search. Yeah, I get that. But like, that's not really, that's a subset of CRUD, right? It's part of retrieve. Some might argue different, but that is basically part of retrieve. And that's it. That's all of CRUD. The last thing I want to fix here is this product object. So if we go back into our models, we didn't create something called a str. And I'll explain this in just a second. So we're going to return title. So str, double underscores. So two underscores there. If it looks like that, you did it wrong. Okay, so str, if you're on Python 3, if you're on Python 2, yes, it is Unicode. So this is basically the representation of this model. It's not actually really doing anything. It's actually a method. Obviously, it's a method or a function. And basically, it's going to override what this says. Instead of it being called product object, it's actually going to go based off of what that object is, or the instance field or something in there. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And hey, what did I do? I made changes to models.py. So what am I going to do? I'm going to run, make migrations, and migrate every time. I don't care if it says no changes detected. I just want you to be in the habit of doing that. If you're more advanced, don't listen to me. But if you're not, definitely listen to me. Definitely do this every time. You want to get in this habit. It really prevents a lot of errors from happening. Okay, back to run server. I made those changes. I refresh in here. Whoa, product now says t-shirt. So that's just a representation for it. And honestly, when it comes to Python 2 and 3, this is the main version or the main difference inside of Django. There's really not a whole lot that isn't Python related, Python specific, in the sense of like printing. When you print on version 3, you have to use the parentheses. When printing on version 2, you do not, right? Those are Python specific things. But as far as Django specific things, this is pretty much it. There's probably other things too, but it's not a whole lot. And we're going to stick with that. So if you are using Python 2, you probably can get away with it in this series. Okay, and the reason I point this out too is because if you watch one of our archived projects, which is highly recommended because we have a lot, sometimes you'll see it in Python 2, but you want to stick with Python 3. This is the difference. Okay, cool. That's it for the admin. We now have a way to admin or administer all of our product models. Like we can actually do some cool stuff with it. But before we do that, before we do more with the admin, which we'll have a whole section dedicated on the admin, but before we do anything else with the admin, we're going to actually start to build a way for our users to see it, because the admin is not really for our users. It's more for our small team. If you have a big team, that is, if you have like 50 people, maybe 100, you're probably not going to want to use the Django admin. You're probably going to want to build something for that team. Just keep that in mind as you go forward. Again, we're going to have a whole section for the admin on customizing and doing all that stuff. So that is coming. But before we even get there, we want to understand how to make something for our users. Not really for us, because us being the technical ones, having a perfect working admin doesn't matter until you have an app that works like we do, right? So codingforentrepreneurs.com, the admin on there is definitely more sophisticated than the basic, but that doesn't mean anything if the users can't use the site. And that's our philosophy on building web applications. So stay with us as we build some more.